I want to play dice. Who will be my opponent?
They fell your way last time, and no mistake. You'll play against Maladota. He's a bit... well... you'll see for yourself.
Filth and stink everywhere. Should have stayed home.
I want to play dice. Who will be my opponent?
Maybe this time you'll fare better. Then there's Hekuna. He's a local fellow who brings stuff for us. He put up a nice necklace as his wager.
I'm so hungry I can eat my foot. Never get used to this. Hey, you wash yourself once in a while. You wash yourself. My granddad's brother drowned bathing in a pond. I'm not taking the risk.
Congratulations.
What have I done to
Fortune
deserve
smile
this?
on you today, eh?
Thanks. I was lucky, all right.
Here you are. You know where to find your winnings, right? But if I were you, I'd stay clear of Maladota. You know what he's like, right?
I know, and I'll take your advice. I reckon I'll go to Sasau to celebrate. There's more to choose from there.
Good idea. Just don't drink it all away, eh?
Should have stayed home. The chief doesn't want to see you.
I'm ready to begin with our negotiations, sir.
From what I've heard, you have some proposal for me that would involve departing from Vlashin?
Yes, essentially. We need to divert attention elsewhere. To pilgrims.
Yes, why not? It's a reasonable journey and a rich town. And who are we to devote our attention to?
Merchants' wagons.
Of course. How better to put the fear of God in the townsmen than to relieve them of their silver? Do you want us to conduct our business on any particular road?
The road to Slaney.
What, through Prague?
That's true, actually.
And what's in it for us? If terrorizing folk is what you want, there might not be much profit in it.
Would 6,000 groschen suit you?
That's not enough. Make it 9 at least.
Very well. You shall have 9,000 groschen.
And that's everything?
That's all. I trust it's a satisfactory offer.
That's all acceptable. I agree then. Now we've settled our business, you can go and rest. We'll talk later when you feel up to it.
Thank you, Sir Erhard.
I was told not to let you pass.
How did I do? Have I won?
No such luck, sir. Young Pakuna won. Sorry.
Oh well. There's no arguing with fortune. Thanks anyway. Allow me to congratulate you on your win.
Thanks. I never thought I could do it.
I noticed there was one nice piece of jewellery. An old necklace.
Aye, a rare-looking gem. I'm curious how much I'll get for it.
Supposing I give you some silver for it right now. I'll pay a fair price.
Since it's you.
That's not enough. I'll take it, your lordship. I'd be a fool not to.
I have good news for you, Sir Anselm. I know who killed your friend. Who was it? It was Mladotta, one of the brigands.
How did you find out?
From the dice.
All right. I'll take care of it from here. And I owe you for helping me. Here, Henry, take this. I'm sorry I don't have more on me. But if you're ever in Prague, come and look me up, and I'll see you're well taken care of.
It's been a pleasure, Sir Anselm. Godspeed.
God be with you, lad. What can I do for you?
I've got that necklace.
Excellent news! I'm not going to ask you how you did it. Here's a reward for you. Now you can carry on with your next task. I want you to sneak the jewellery into Carolina's trunk along with this letter.
Can't I just hand them to her?
You cannot! Under no circumstances must she find out who sent them. Otherwise the whole secret admirer ploy is fucked. Oh, and by the way, Henry, watch out for the butcher. He keeps a very close eye on his daughter, and if he catches you sniffing around, well, may all the saints preserve you. Once you've delivered the things, wait a day, and then come back and see me.
Good luck, then. Took everything I had. Greetings. What do you need?
I delivered the things as you asked.
I already know! My spies told me everything. She was wearing the necklace this morning, as I asked in the letter.
So you'll go to the rendezvous with her?
Certainly not! I'm not going to pounce on her like a bull in rutting season. Her feelings must be allowed to mature gradually. Meanwhile, you'll get a potion for me.
I thought you didn't believe in witches' brews.
This is no witch's brew. It's an absolutely tried and tested elixir called Musk of Infinite Allure. There's a fellow in Sasau who sells it, and he guarantees its success.
Musk of Infinite Allure? Sounds irresistible. All right, I'll try and get it for you.
I'm sure I can rely on you. Here's some coin for your costs.
See you later.
I could do with a bite to eat.
Salt sprinkled with the bloody tears of St. James Madonna.
Well, well, who have we here?
Ah, the prodigal son returns. I knew you'd come back to me one day.
Let me guess, you saw it in a dream?
I knew you were going to say that.
But I had a divine revelation. That next time I won't be around to pull you out of the shit.
Oh, well, I am sorry. But these things are sent to try our fortitude in the face of adversity.
I'd like to try your fortitude. I've heard you know of some irresistibility potion or whatever it is.
Ah, naturally, Musk of Infinite Allure, an age-old recipe, maybe even older, tested by Moses himself.
Moses?
How do you think he managed to get his people to follow him through the desert for 40 years? It's extremely potent.
Yeah, so it would seem. How much do you want for it?
Who do you take me for? The wisdom of the ancients isn't something that's bought and sold in the marketplace. Did Jesus charge for his miracles? But since you ask, how about this much?
What? That much? You're a crook.
As King Solomon said, honesty is for those who can afford it. If you like, I can mix the elixir for you in exchange for a small favor.
Oh, not again.
Now, is that any tone to use with your master? For shame.
Apologies, Master. I was carried away by my thirst for knowledge.
I understand your impatience, but the way to wisdom is narrow and arduous.
And leads out the window. So what is it you want from me now?
Ah, my dear apprentice, everything's gone to the devil. I'm living from hand to mouth, sleeping on straw, and the local peasants won't buy from me. They say they don't trust me, as if I were some kind of charlatan. Can you believe it? Does this look to you like the face of a swindler? I'm an honest trader in sacred goods, whose only concern is the welfare of troubled souls.
A regular Good Samaritan.
And any time now the slanderous gossip will spread here from Sasau. I should leave before things get worse. But I can't go anywhere until I've made a bit of coin. So what's needed is to give the locals a bit of encouragement, to open their hearts and purses.
I'm not going to go around beating people for you.
What do you take me for? I wouldn't hurt a fly. Violence is for the dull-witted. We must gently demonstrate to them the necessity of buying my remedies. For example, to ward off a revenant.
Revenant? What revenant?
The dead, returned from the grave. A corpse that the soul is unable to depart from, which wanders among the living, filled with rage at its wretched fate.
Yeah, I saw something like that once. But it was just some drunk going home from the tavern after losing all his money at dice.
Don't make light of such things. Now tell me, Do you know how to deal with a revenant?
A silver arrowhead through the skull?
Novel, but it would certainly be a lucrative trade. You are my trained apprentice, but the ignorant villager is entirely at a loss how to deal with such dark forces. It is our sacred duty to prepare them for such threats.
And how do you propose to do that?
Well, they're all doubting Thomases. They need proof. We'll need a grave, an empty grave that we can use. There's one along the way to Sasau, but it's got one minor shortcoming.
What's that?
Well, it's not entirely empty.
Not entirely? What does that mean?
You have to dig it up first.
Why this particular grave?
The locals don't like to talk about it, so it's surely got some sinister past behind it. And in places like that, revenants sprout up like mushrooms after rain.
Well, if that's how it is, we could open old wounds. That could easily set people against us. Again.
Then it would be best if no one could connect us to it, wouldn't it?
But that's a sin.
Refusing to help the needy is also a sin. I haven't had a decent meal for 40 days and 40 nights.
My conscience is clear where your stomach is concerned. Disturbing a grave is a grave sin.
The grave is not in hallowed ground, so that's hardly worth one Lord's prayer in penance. I asked a priest once, just out of curiosity.
I'll need a spade then.
Yes, dig it up and remove the remains, leaving no trace.
And what am I to do with the remains?
Keep them. Human remains are always handy to have around.
Great. And how do we spread the word of this revenant?
There's a gossip in every village. Here, too, a woman who'll spread news quicker than a dozen messengers on the fastest steeds.
And what am I to tell this gossip?
All you have to do is casually mention the empty grave, and before evening, I'll wager the whole village will know about it.
Where does this woman live?
The last house on the left, on the road to Sasau. She was the first person I met here, and by the time I reached the village green, I already had a mob looking suspiciously at me. The rumor-mongering fishwife.
And that's all?
Not quite. You should ask her who was buried there. So we've got a story to work with.
So, dig up the grave, talk to the gossip.
And the remains. Don't forget to remove them. Otherwise, no one will believe in the revenant.
I might have known any task for Capon would turn into some insane escapade. Grave robbing. Jesus.
nothing of their true value.
God be with you, good wife. Has something happened here?
Heavens no. It's quiet here, unlike some other places.
And what about that empty grave?
What empty grave would that be now?
The one beyond the village, alongside the road to Sasau. Just by the river, on the Pine Headland.
How would you know it's empty? Unless it was dug up.
Oh, it's dug up all right. Freshly. And empty. I saw it with my own 2 eyes.
Lord in heaven, what in the name of...
How come it's not in hallowed ground, anyway? Only unrepentant sinners are buried like that. Usually.
I don't like to say. It's an old wound that's best forgotten.
Whose grave is it?
Well, once a long time ago there was a young charcoal burner living here with his wife. There was always a lot of charcoal burners here, but this fellow worked alone. That's not an easy job for one man.
Well, no one wanted to work with him, or what?
Oh, he was a hard-headed fellow who always wanted to take care of his family himself.
Well, only then you've no one to blame but yourself if you end up alone.
His wife was expecting, though no one knew it yet. And he wasn't doing well at all. Soon enough they had nothing to eat. And so he took to thieving.
Has your manhood been whittled?
Well, thieving is wrong.
Then by this
Aye, but when there's a child on the way and your wife hasn't the strength to get out of bed for the hunger, well, you ought to think differently.
And did he get caught?
Well, at first it was just a few eggs going missing from people's hen coops. But then it was anything that wasn't nailed down. And in the end, they caught him.
And I suppose he was harshly punished for it.
Even then he didn't let on why he was doing it. They whipped the skin off his back and banished him from Leditchko.
So justice was done then?
It wasn't enough for some folk. When the butcher found out he'd never get any compensation, he wanted them to chop off the charcoal burner's hands. If the bailiff hadn't talked sense into him, he'd have done it himself with his cleaver.
Well, he got off lightly enough then.
And in the end, he got what was coming to him, and more.
The butcher caught up with him?
No, no. It was the mills of God turning slowly but surely. His wife bled to death in childbirth, and the child died with her.
God have mercy on their souls.
Amen.
Nothing could have been done to save them.
There was no one there. He had no one who would care for his wife. They say on that day he parted ways with God forever, and he turned his back on the village too. I reckon he never forgave himself, nor us either.
The Lord moves in mysterious ways. But how did he end up?
Don't ask me that, lad. I beg you.
Come now, good wife. You can't leave the story unfinished.
I said no. Will you let it lie?
rare merchandise from all over. God be with you.
I know who was buried in that grave. A young charcoal burner.
So begins the tragic tale of the young charcoal burner who became entangled with the devil himself.
Oh, don't start. What devil? I'm trying to tell you. He was from Ledetchko. He was trying to eke out a living for himself and his wife, but he couldn't manage. When she fell pregnant, he took to stealing.
Pride drove him from the straight and narrow path, and soon he sold his soul to the devil to fill his stomach.
They caught him and punished him, but some of the people he'd robbed didn't think it was enough. Then when his wife died in childbirth, and the child too, he blamed everyone for it. Even God, apparently.
But when the time came to pay his debt to hell, the devil had no use for his soul, and took his wife and child instead. The charcoal burner cursed God, who struck him down in righteous vengeance. But the dead man's soul never left his body. He came back as a revenant, to vent his rage at God and men and take vengeance on the living.
Jesus, did you listen to what I said at all?
Sorry, did you say something?
Oh, never mind. What do you want me to do with it?
Well, the question is, what would the Revenant do to get revenge on the villagers? Well, apprentice?
The gossip mentioned the butcher. It seems he was infuriated that the charcoal burner's punishment was too lenient.
And the Revenant spoiled their meat with his malign touch.
How's that?
Spoiled meat is a classic example of a Revenant's power.
I thought it was the work of bad butchers.
That too, sometimes.
So, I should switch the good meat for bad at the butcher's.
But make sure it's the same kind of meat. Not even a Revenant will turn a cow into a chicken.
He was stealing food from people, right? So, supposing he started again.
We should steal from people? Disgraceful. Have you no shame?
Maybe just a few eggs from hen coops, like the gossip mentioned.
Well, that wouldn't be too serious a sin. Will they put it down to the Revenant, though?
They would, if I put some charcoal there instead.
And their nourishment he turned into ash.
What about his wife and child? No doubt he'd want to avenge their death.
Well, how did they die?
In childbirth.
And when his love turned to rage, the water turned to blood. Nothing too original, but it's tried and tested. If you do it at the baths, everyone will hear of it.
How am I supposed to do that? It might be a bit suspicious if I'm seen walking around with a pail of blood.
No problem. There's a certain potion that will do the trick easily.
He cursed God. That's very serious.
What is it that most brings God to mind?
They don't have a church there. But everyone will have a rosary. I can't think of anything else.
That's it! If folks start losing their rosaries, they'll have sleepless nights over it.
You want me to steal rosaries? But that's...
Or just exchange them.
For what?
For nothing.
Great.
So, switch eggs for charcoal, switch the meat, color the water in the baths, and switch the rosaries. That ought to do it. I hope so. Of course, if you come up with anything else, don't let me hold you back. Talking to people might give you ideas. Traders, the bailiff.
Well, what if someone sees me in the act?
They mustn't. Otherwise, it'll end up like Sasau all over again. Don't draw attention to yourself, or they'll put two and two together.
Sure. I'll keep my head down. And how will I know if I've succeeded? I doubt it'll be announced on the market square.
I'll be the first to know. They'll come running to me for a remedy, like hens at feeding time. Off you go and raise hell.
But whatever he did, don't you think he deserves some peace?
Dear Henry, after all the poor wretch went through, I'd say he's beyond any peace.
Well, he certainly won't have any as long as I'm carrying his bones around with me.
Ah, but you know who those remains could help.
Help? Who? How?
Me, of course. And I'd pay you a nice price for a Revenant's bones.
But there is no Revenant.
Not yet. What do you say?
All right, I'll sell them to you.
Splendid. Revenant bones. They'll be very useful indeed.
Take care.